In the heart of the untamed West, where the land was as fierce as the people who dared to claim it, a raging flood swept through the valley with merciless force. It tore apart homes, washed away dreams, and left nothing but devastation in its wake. Yet amid the destruction, there stood a solitary barn, weathered and worn, untouched by the relentless waters. Inside its sturdy walls, 12 strangers, lost, frightened, and desperate, found refuge, drawn together by fate and the resilience of one lone man who called it home. This was no ordinary shelter. The barn belonged to a man known throughout the region as a loner, a figure shrouded in mystery and whispers. Many kept their distance, wary of his rugged demeanor and solitary ways. But when the floodwaters rose and threatened to swallow everything in their path, it was his barn that became a sanctuary, a beacon of hope against the overwhelming odds. The flood had taken everything from a valley, but could not take the spirit that lived within those wooden beams. As the storm raged outside, the 12 souls inside faced not only the fury of nature, but the weight of their own fears and pasts. Strangers from different walks of life, forced into close quarters by circumstance, they had to learn to trust one another in order to survive. Their stories intertwined like the sturdy timbers of the barn, creating a fragile but unbreakable bond that defied the chaos beyond the walls. In that crucible of survival, secrets would be revealed and hearts would be tested. The flood was more than just a natural disaster. It was a turning point. It stripped away the facades people wore and exposed the raw humanity beneath. Inside the barn, amidst the flickering lantern light and the roar of the waters, lives would be changed forever. It was a place where hope refused to drown, where courage was forged in the face of despair, and where the lonely found strength in the company of strangers. Prepare to step into a story of survival, resilience, and unexpected fellowship, a tale that reminds us that even when the world seems washed away, the human spirit can build shelter strong enough to weather any storm. The flood came without warning, a sudden fury unleashed by swollen rivers and relentless storms that turned the peaceful valley into a raging sea. Families scrambled to save what little they could, the ground trembling beneath their feet as the water rose higher with each passing hour. Homes were swallowed whole, crops were lost, and hopes seemed to drift away with the current. In the chaos, the townsfolk looked for shelter, desperate to escape the wrath of nature. But as the floodwaters claimed everything in their path, one place remained untouched: the barn of the loner who had chosen solitude over society. The man who owned the barn was a mystery to many. He had lived on the outskirts for years, a figure wrapped in rumors and assumptions. Some said he was a hardened outlaw seeking peace. Others believed he was simply a man broken by his past. Few dared to cross his path, and fewer still had ever been inside his barn. Yet now, in the face of disaster, 12 strangers found themselves drawn to this rugged sanctuary, a wooden fortress standing firm against the flood's relentless assault. Inside the barn's weathered walls, the 12 faced more than just the storm outside. They faced the challenge of survival and the complexity of human nature. Strangers from vastly different walks of life, thrown together by fate, they had to navigate distrust, fear, and the weight of their own secrets. The loner, silent and watchful, became an unexpected anchor amid the turmoil. His strength was not in words but in steady action, proving that sometimes survival demanded more than courage. It demanded unity. As night fell and the floodwaters continued their slow march, the barn became a refuge not only from the physical danger, but from the loneliness and despair threatening to consume them all. Lanterns flickered softly, casting long shadows and igniting fragile connections between the 12 souls. Stories began to unfold, revealing wounds hidden beneath tough exteriors, and slowly, trust was built, brick by brick, in the most unlikely of places. The flood had taken everything but left this barn standing, a symbol of resilience amid ruin. Inside its walls, the struggle for survival was intertwined with the hope that even in the darkest times, humanity could find light. The 12 were no longer just survivors. They were a new family forged in the crucible of disaster. As the flood raged on, the 12 within the barn learned to rely on each other in ways they never imagined possible. The loner, who had once been an outcast, emerged as an unlikely leader, not by demand, but by the quiet respect he earned through his calm determination. He rationed supplies, tended to wounds, and kept watch through long, sleepless nights. His past remained a shadow, but his actions illuminated the path forward for those who feared the flood might be the end. Among the group were farmers who had lost their lands, merchants who had seen their livelihoods swept away, and travelers caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Each brought their own fears and regrets, but also their own strength. Together, they shared stories by the fire, their voices mingling with the sound of rain pounding on the roof. These moments of vulnerability became the foundation for bonds that transcended circumstance, a testament to the human spirit's capacity for connection. Tensions inevitably flared, as close quarters and uncertainty tested even the strongest wills. Old prejudices and past grievances surfaced, threatening to unravel the fragile unity. But the loner's steady presence reminded them that survival depended on more than just physical shelter. It required forgiveness, understanding, and the courage to embrace one another despite their differences. Outside, the floodwaters showed no sign of retreating, and the threat of starvation and sickness loomed large. Yet inside the barn, hope grew with every shared meal and every story told in the flickering lantern light. The 12 found strength not only in shelter, but in the human connection they forged, proving that even in the wild, harsh West, compassion could be a lifeline. As days stretched into nights, the barn stood as a beacon of endurance, a place where strangers became family, where fear was met with courage, and where the flood that took everything could not wash away the resilience of the human heart. As the floodwaters pressed relentlessly against the barn's sturdy walls, the 12 survivors faced more than just the elements. They faced the demons of their own pasts. Memories long buried began to surface in whispered confessions and quiet moments of solitude. Each person carried scars deeper than the flood itself, wounds etched by loss, betrayal, or regret. But within the barn's protective embrace, they found a rare chance to confront these ghosts, to seek forgiveness, and to begin healing. The loner's silence, once interpreted as cold detachment, revealed itself as a profound burden. He carried the weight of solitude, not by choice but by circumstance, and now, surrounded by strangers, he grappled with the possibility of connection. Slowly, he shared fragments of his story, a tale marked by loss and redemption, drawing others into his world and allowing them to see the man beneath the hardened exterior. This vulnerability sparked a ripple of trust, breaking down walls built from years of isolation. Amid the flood's fury, small acts of kindness became lifelines. A shared blanket, a whispered word of encouragement, a helping hand through the darkness. These gestures wove a tapestry of hope that grew stronger with each passing day. The barn was no longer just a shelter from the storm. It had become a sanctuary for the soul. The 12 learned that survival was as much about the heart as it was about shelter and supplies. But the outside world was not silent. Rumors spread that the valley had been swallowed by the flood, and rescue seemed distant, if not impossible. The uncertainty gnawed at their spirits, threatening to unravel the fragile peace inside. Yet, in the face of despair, the group's resilience deepened. Together, they found strength in unity, and in the flickering light of the tribal lanterns the loner had placed, a symbol of their enduring hope. In that barn, against all odds, 12 lives intertwined, each story a thread in a larger narrative of survival, transformation, and unexpected fellowship. The flood had taken much, but could not wash away the indomitable human spirit. As days turned into weeks, the survivors settled into a rhythm that balanced vigilance with fragile peace. They rationed what little food they had, tended to one another's wounds, and shared stories of lives once lived before the flood. These stories became more than memories. They were bridges connecting hearts separated by circumstance, fostering a community born of necessity but sustained by compassion. The loner, once an enigma, grew into a figure of quiet strength and unexpected warmth. His skills, knowledge of the land, experience with harsh conditions, became invaluable, earning him the trust and gratitude of the group. Yet, it was his willingness to listen and understand that truly united them. He became not just a protector, but a friend, breaking the chains of isolation that had defined his life. Tensions, though, were never far beneath the surface. Old grudges flared, and moments of despair tested their fragile bonds. But in those moments, the shared goal of survival prevailed. The flood was a relentless adversary, but it was the flood inside, the fear, the anger, the loneliness that threatened to break them. Through patience and empathy, they learned to weather not only the storm outside, but the storms within. Outside, the floodwaters slowly began to recede, revealing a landscape transformed and scarred. The survivors knew that returning to the world beyond the barn would mean facing new challenges, rebuilding homes, reclaiming livelihoods, and confronting the losses that no flood could erase. Yet, they also knew that the bonds forged in those floodlit nights had prepared them for whatever lay ahead. In the heart of the barn, amidst shadows and light, 12 strangers had become a family. Their journey was far from over, but the flood had taught them a powerful truth. Even when everything is lost, hope can find shelter, and in shelter, humanity can be reborn. The first light after the flood's retreat revealed a valley transformed. Once fertile fields now churned into mud, homes reduced to rubble, and familiar landmarks swallowed by water. For the 12 survivors, stepping out of the barn meant facing a world that was both terrifying and unrecognizable. Yet, despite the devastation, there was a quiet strength among them, a resolve forged in the fires of shared hardship and newfound trust. They were no longer isolated individuals. They had become a community bound by experience and hope. The loner, who had once shunned connection, now found himself at the forefront of rebuilding efforts. His knowledge of the land, combined with the support of those who had shared his refuge, made him a natural leader. Yet, leadership came with weight. Each decision carried consequences that could either heal or further fracture the fragile bonds they had formed. The flood had swept away much, but it had also leveled old prejudices, opening a path for something new to grow. Among the survivors, stories of loss and resilience emerged. Tales of loved ones lost to the flood, of homes washed away, but also of courage in the face of despair. These stories became the foundation of their shared identity, a testament to the power of survival and the human spirit's capacity to endure. They celebrated small victories, a patch of reclaimed land, a repaired roof, a smile from a neighbor, as steps toward reclaiming not just their homes, but their lives. The community's efforts drew the attention of neighboring settlements, some offering aid, others skeptical of the unlikely alliance forged in the barn. Yet, the 12 stood firm, their unity a beacon that inspired others to reconsider old biases. The flood's aftermath became not just a test of endurance, but a catalyst for change, a chance to redefine what it meant to belong and to survive in the unforgiving West. As the sun set over the muddy plains, the lanterns in the barn glowed softly, a reminder that even in the wake of destruction, light could emerge from darkness. The survivors knew that the journey ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but together, they were ready to face whatever the future held. Rebuilding was not just about physical structures. It was about mending hearts and forging new beginnings. The survivors found solace in rituals, gathering around fires to share meals, telling stories that preserved memories and gave meaning to their shared ordeal. These moments nurtured the fragile bonds of trust and respect that had grown amidst the flood's chaos, reminding them that survival was as much emotional as it was physical. The loner's transformation became a powerful symbol of redemption and hope. His past, once a source of isolation, now informed his compassion and leadership. He taught others how to read the land, to listen to its rhythms, and to find strength in its resilience. His quiet wisdom bridged gaps between the survivors, encouraging unity in a world still haunted by division. Challenges persisted. Supplies were scarce, tensions occasionally flared, and the scars of loss weighed heavily. Yet, the community's commitment to each other and the memory of those nights in the barn kept them focused. They understood that the flood had taken much, but it had also given them a second chance, a chance to build something stronger, forged through adversity. Outside forces loomed, as the promise of new opportunities attracted settlers and opportunists alike. The survivors knew they would need to protect not just their rebuilt homes, but the fragile trust they had nurtured. The barn, once a refuge from the flood, had become a symbol of resilience that they were determined to defend. As twilight descended, the tribal lanterns continued to shine, steady, unwavering, guiding the survivors forward. They were a testament to the enduring human spirit, a light that no flood could ever extinguish. The survivors' resilience began to ripple beyond their small community, catching the attention of neighboring towns still struggling with their own losses. Word spread of the 12 who had endured the flood together, turning tragedy into a story of hope and unity. Visitors came, curious and sometimes skeptical, but many left inspired by the bonds forged in the Loner's barn. It was a reminder that even in the harshest lands, people could come together and rebuild not just homes, but lives. Among the group, friendships deepened into something stronger, relationships built on shared hardship and mutual respect. The Loner, once an isolated figure, found companionship and trust, discovering that opening one's heart could be as vital as building a sturdy shelter. Together, they faced the uncertainties of the new world they were helping to create, their collective strength a beacon against the unknown. Despite the progress, old fears and prejudices sometimes resurfaced, testing the community's resolve. Conflicts arose, small yet sharp, threatening to unravel the fragile peace. But each time, the survivors reminded themselves of the flood's lessons, that survival depended on cooperation and empathy, not division. Their commitment to each other was their greatest weapon against the trials ahead. The land itself seemed to heal alongside them. New growth sprouted where the flood had scoured the earth, mirroring the renewal taking place within their hearts. The barn, weathered but steadfast, stood as a symbol of endurance and shelter, a place where the past met the future. It was a reminder that even after devastation, life could flourish again. As night fell and the lantern's glow pierced the darkness, the survivors looked toward the horizon with hope and determination. The flood had taken much, but it had also given them a gift, a chance to redefine their lives and the community they would leave behind. The changing seasons brought new challenges, but also new opportunities. The survivors learned to adapt to the transformed landscape, discovering resources and crafting tools to rebuild their world. Their cooperation extended beyond the barn, reaching out to others in the region, forging alliances and trading goods. The flood's devastation became a catalyst for unity among disparate groups, once divided by fear and competition. The Loner's leadership matured, grounded in humility and experience. He became a mentor, guiding others through the hardships of frontier life and teaching the value of patience and resilience. His transformation from solitary figure to community pillar inspired those around him, showing that even the most broken souls could find purpose and belonging. Yet, the past was never far behind. Memories of loss and struggle lingered, occasionally surfacing in moments of doubt or conflict. The survivors faced these shadows together, supporting each other through grief and hardship. Their shared history became a foundation for empathy, reminding them that strength came not from denial, but from facing pain with courage. New settlers arrived, drawn by tales of survival and the promise of fertile land. Some embraced the community's spirit of cooperation, while others resisted change, clinging to old rivalries. The survivors prepared to defend not only their homes but the values they had fought to uphold: respect, unity, and hope. Under the vast western sky, the lanterns continued to shine, symbols of a community forged in adversity, glowing with the promise that even after the fiercest storms, the human spirit could endure and thrive. The community that had risen from the ruins of the flood now stood at a crossroads, their fragile peace both a blessing and a burden. The survivors had weathered unimaginable loss and trauma, yet the world beyond their barn was changing fast. New settlers, hungry for land and opportunity, arrived in increasing numbers, bringing with them old prejudices and ambitions that threatened to unravel the delicate trust painstakingly built. Tensions simmered beneath the surface as the newcomers struggled to understand the bond forged by 12 strangers in the chaos of disaster. The loner, now a respected leader, found himself torn between welcoming the future and protecting the hard-won unity of his chosen family. He understood that survival was no longer just about shelter or food. It was about preserving the spirit of resilience and respect that had carried them through their darkest hours. The barn, once a simple refuge from the flood, had become a sacred symbol, a testament to what could be achieved when strangers set aside fear and suspicion to embrace their shared humanity. As disagreements threatened to fracture the community, the survivors faced the most critical test of all. Could they hold on to the lessons learned from the flood, or would old wounds reopen and drown their hopes once again? Amid this struggle, the survivors found solace and strength in their shared stories and experiences. Around the flickering lantern light, they spoke of not only what they had lost, but of what they had gained: new friendships, renewed hope, and an unbreakable sense of belonging. The flood had forced them to confront the worst of nature's fury, but it had also revealed the best of human nature, the capacity for compassion, sacrifice, and growth. They began to see their community not as a collection of individuals thrown together by circumstance, but as a living, breathing family forged through adversity. This realization inspired them to face the mounting challenges with renewed determination, knowing that their unity was their greatest weapon against the forces that threatened to pull them apart. The story of their survival became a beacon for others in the region, a reminder that even after the most devastating storms, hope could flourish if people were willing to stand together. Yet, the hardships were far from over. Scarce resources, unpredictable weather, and the lingering trauma of the flood continued to test their resolve daily. The survivors learned to lean on each other in ways they never had before, finding strength in vulnerability and courage in the face of uncertainty. The loner, once a man marked by isolation and pain, emerged as a symbol of transformation, embodying the power of community and the healing that comes from connection. His story intertwined with those of the 12 who had sought refuge in his barn, each chapter a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. As the seasons changed, so too did the survivors, growing not only in numbers but in wisdom and empathy, prepared to face whatever the future held. The lanterns that had once offered light against the flood's darkness now illuminated a new path forward, one defined by hope, unity, and a commitment to preserve the bonds they had forged. Their glow reminded all who gathered beneath the vast western sky that even in a land as wild and unforgiving as the Old West, the human heart could find sanctuary and strength. This legacy of survival and fellowship would endure beyond the flood's memory, inspiring generations to come and proving that the greatest storms could never extinguish the light born from courage and compassion. As years passed, the valley slowly healed, bearing witness to the enduring legacy of those 12 survivors and a man who had once lived as a loner. Their community flourished, not only rebuilding what the flood had destroyed, but creating something far greater, a society rooted in trust, respect, and shared humanity. The survivors' stories, passed down around campfires and in whispered conversations, became legends, etched into the collective memory of the West. They spoke of nights huddled in the barn, of fears faced and friendships forged, and of a flood that had taken everything except the spirit of hope. This spirit became the foundation upon which new generations built their lives, reminding them that even when nature's fury threatened to break them, their resilience and unity would always prevail. The loner's transformation from outcast to leader symbolized the profound power of community and redemption. He taught those who followed that strength was not measured by solitude or survival alone, but by the willingness to open one's heart and embrace others in times of need. His barn, once a mere shelter, became a monument to human perseverance, a place where strangers became family and despair was met with unwavering hope. The lanterns he kept burning through stormy nights remained a symbol of this journey, a light that guided not only those within the barn's walls, but all who believed in the possibility of renewal. Yet, their journey was never without hardship. New challenges arose: droughts, conflicts over land, and the ever-present threat of the untamed wilderness. But the community's foundation, forged in the crucible of the flood, held firm. Their shared history gave them the strength to confront adversity together, drawing upon the lessons of compassion, courage, and resilience. The Barnes legacy lived on in their hearts and actions, reminding them that even when the world seemed washed away, the bonds of humanity could build a future that no flood could destroy. Under the expansive skies of the West, the light of those tribal lanterns continued to shine, a beacon of hope, unity, and the unbreakable human spirit. The flood had been a cruel force of nature, but it had also been a catalyst for transformation, revealing the profound capacity for connection and survival that lies within us all. This story, born from tragedy and tempered by compassion, stands as a timeless reminder. Even in the darkest storms, courage and kindness can light a path toward a brighter tomorrow. As you carry this story with you, remember that every act of empathy and bravery has the power to change lives, just as it changed theirs in that barn standing strong against the flood. Their journey is a testament to the enduring strength of hope and the remarkable spirit that lives within us all. The story of the flood that took everything except the loner's barn is a powerful reminder of the human spirit's ability to endure and transform in the face of overwhelming adversity. It teaches us that survival is not just about holding on to what we have, but about finding strength in unity, compassion, and hope. These 12 strangers, thrown together by disaster, became more than survivors. They became a family forged by shared trials and an unwavering will to persevere. Their journey reminds us that even when the world around us seems to crumble, the light of resilience can shine brighter than any storm. Throughout this tale, we see how courage often comes in quiet forms: a steady hand offering help, a willingness to listen, or the choice to open one's home and heart to strangers. It challenges us to rethink what true strength means, especially in times of crisis. The floodwaters tested their bodies and spirits, but it was their collective empathy and trust that ultimately carried them through. This story asks us to consider our own lives, how we respond when everything seems lost, and whether we choose to build bridges or walls in moments of fear. In a world that often celebrates individual triumphs, this narrative reveals the extraordinary power of togetherness. It is a testament to the fact that no one faces their battles alone, and that hope can be found even in the darkest hours. The barn, standing firm against the flood, symbolizes not just shelter, but sanctuary, a place where humanity's deepest fears and greatest strengths meet. It calls on us all to be a shelter for others, to hold space for healing, and to embrace the possibility of new beginnings. As you reflect on this story, remember that every act of kindness and courage has the potential to change lives, not just our own, but those around us. Just like the 12 who found refuge in the barn, we can find strength in community, in light, in solidarity. The greatest storms may challenge us, but they also reveal the unbreakable resilience within each of us. If this story moved you, take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments below. What does resilience mean to you? And if you want to hear more stories that inspire and touch the human heart, make sure to subscribe and like this video. Your support helps keep these powerful tales alive, guiding us all toward hope and connection, one story at a time.